and LA, assuming that OKC takes care of business in round one as we expect. All right, let's get to breakout player of the playoffs. Chris, who have you got here?
Yeah, I've got Jayson Tatum. It's been one of the most remarkable stories that I can remember in my 20 some odd years of covering the NBA. This not only ability by Jayson Tatum to recover and come back around 10 months after popping his Achilles, but to be playing at the kind of level that he was playing at. I mean, 3 weeks into his return to the NBA, he was the NBA's Conference Player of the Week. Like, usually those things come and go without much fanfare, but I was astonished when I saw Jayson Tatum pop as the Conference Player of the Week. Now he's got some momentum. He played about 40 minutes against the Knicks the other night. So the minutes restrictions are off. The minute shackles are off him. And now he has a chance to go into the playoffs and author one of the greatest stories maybe that we've seen in quite some time, to come off this kind of injury and play at this kind of level. We've seen guys come back faster from this injury. Wesley Matthews did it years ago. Kobe Bryant did it. We've never seen anybody play at this kind of level. And when you throw Tatum onto a Boston team that has been so efficient offensively, that's got such great contributions from unheralded guys like Baylor Shireman, who lit up Orlando on Sunday, all the way down the list to a Jordan Walsh, who's shown he can be defensive-minded, Luka Garza, who's been excellent for this team in the second half of the season. Can Jayson Tatum be kind of the jet fuel that powers this team back to the finals and potentially to a championship? I think he's going to have a really strong postseason.
Yeah, Tatum's, it's interesting. It's a little niche, but I actually think that how good DeJounte Murray looked after he came back this year actually kind of bodes well for Tatum as well, even though the Pelicans weren't a hyper-relevant team. But as soon as DeJounte got back, they did become much more competent. He looked great. He looked explosive. And we just don't have that many analogs for guys in the NBA tearing their Achilles in their mid to late 20s. It's usually been older guys. I think with the state of sports science now and just recovery, that it is more plausible that, someone like Tatum can return to, if not 100%, then, 90, 95%. And Chris, he played a game against Charlotte with Jaylen Brown out a couple of weeks ago where Tatum was the guy. And just his explosion going to the rim, it just looked like Jayson Tatum. So he is certainly the reason why they're so
and I was in New York for that game against the Knicks, which was a haunting game for Tatum. And we talked for a few minutes in the locker room after everybody had left, and he was telling me just how anxious he was going into that game and how hours before the game he was in his hotel room throwing up. That's how nervous he was to go back into that game and play against the Knicks. But that was a box-checking type of game. That was one of the final hurdles that Tatum kind of had to cross before he could really get back to being his former self. And everything I've seen over these last few weeks has been an incremental rise in, Jayson Tatum injury version to Jayson Tatum all-NBA MVP candidate. If he's not 90%, he's 88, 89% of what he once was. And every single day that passes, every practice that passes, he's getting even closer to getting back to being Jayson Tatum. And if you look at this Eastern Conference landscape, Tatum and Brown have more than enough firepower to get by anybody in this Eastern Conference.
Well, okay, and also what I would say also what I liked about him was he has fit in, right? He didn't come back and have to be the Jayson Tatum because Jaylen Brown has been, he's going to be probably first team All NBA, very close to it this year, depending on, I don't even want to get into the 65 game rule. But getting into he has fit comfortably. It's been a hand in glove return as opposed to him trying to shoehorn himself back into the offense. He's been willing to play off the ball. He's been willing to accept the role on the day Jaylen Brown is got it. And that does make them just more dangerous because if Jayson Tatum's your weak side guy, watch out.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was instructive that the game on NBC, the Sunday night game against the Hornets, where even though, Tatum was there, it was the Jaylen Brown show late and it was running through him, which I suspect it will be for a lot of the playoffs. All right, Kurt, who's your breakout player pick?
I'm going to go a little bit deeper into a roster. If the Denver Nuggets are going to pull off what we want to pull off, they need Peyton Watson back healthy. He missed the end of the season with the hamstring injury, but this extra week off they get now should help him. He should be back, if not for the full first round, for most of it. But by the second round, they need his athleticism. They need what he brought this year on both ends of the floor as a transition force as a guy who could knock down threes and as a very good long defender. I think they need him. And this isn't just the Long Beach guy sitting in Long Beach calling out the Long Beach Poly High School kid. This is, I think, a really good fit. And by the way, good timing for him because he gets paid this summer, and he's got fans all over the league if Denver doesn't want to step up.
Okay. Does kind of sound like the Long Beach guy calling out the Long Beach Poly High School kid, but that's okay. All right, I will go with Jalen Duren as my breakout player pick. I think that people who follow the NBA closely understand how good Jalen Duren was. I'm not sure the broader, more casual fan understands exactly the level that this guy reached this year, where he is, I think, likely going to be on an all-NBA team. I think he's established himself, as a top 15 player in the league in that kind of range anyway. And I think that the time that he got to be the man over the final couple of weeks with Cade out, I think will bode well for him going into the playoffs, because he got to expand his game and just his level of impact, particularly on offense, even though he's made strides on defense as well. But we think of gravity as, often, 3-point shooting and Steph and Clay, etc. But gravity can also be with rolling to the rim, with your presence on the offensive glass. And the Lakers played a game against the Pistons a couple of weeks ago where Dennis Jenkins went off. But if you watch that game, every possession the Lakers were on defense, it was clear that their kind of organizing principle on defense was, where is Jalen Duren at all times? Like, how close is he to the rim? How do we stop him on the offensive glass? And the fact that he is maybe the strongest player in the league, but then also has great touch around the rim. I think he's a very solid passer for his position as well, which doesn't get used as much. Him in the short roll operating with Cade is unstoppable. And I think that if the Pistons, if they are to make the finals, I think that Jalen Duren's kind of ascendance will be one of the biggest reasons why.
Yeah, they have to score in the paint at a high number. When they were scuffling, it was about a month or so ago, their points in the paint number had dipped significantly. They don't have enough perimeter shooting to overcome lower numbers on points in the paint. So they're going to need Duren to do all that. I would counter to say that while he is incredibly important, I would collectively call every 3-point shooter on Detroit equally as important there, because that's what everybody I talk to keeps pointing to when it comes to the Pistons in the postseason. They've got Duncan Robinson, but who else do they have? Who is going to be that consistent sniper for them? Are they going to be able to consistently put up threes at a good number? Because when you get, and you're looking pretty far ahead here, but if you get to a conference finals against Boston, I know the Pistons have played well against Boston, but they haven't played them with Tatum. If you get to the conference finals against Boston, the Celtics are going to try to trade 3 for 2 with you all possession long. So you've got to have 1 or 2 guys on that team consistently knocking down threes. So you're not just getting, 2-point buckets from Jalen Duren while Tatum, Brown, Baylor, Shireman, all those other guys on Boston are jacking up threes at, 45 to 50 per game.
Yeah. Ultimately, go ahead, Kurt.
No, I was going to say, the other thing I had with them was also, I had questions about their second, like Jalen Duren has kind of become the secondary scoring option for them, right? The guy who can get the ball. But now Dennis Jenkins steps into that role, and I'm really curious how that plays out in the playoffs, that he can't just be the sixth man. He's going to have to play some critical minutes down the stretch, because you can't do what everybody was able to do to the Bucks and Giannis for entirely too long until they got Holiday and had a great Chris Middleton year. If I can just load up on him, life gets really difficult. So somebody else has to step up. Duren's part of that. Jenkins is part of that.
Yep. Ultimately, I'm a believer in Detroit. I think they're the second most likely team to win the East after Boston, even though the odds have them as the 4th most likely behind the Cavs and the Knicks. But for a 1 seed and a team with real finals aspirations, there is a lot of Duncan Robinson going on. And I think that he has been very good for them this year and better than expected. But they are very dependent on his shooting.
Hit subscribe for more news, highlights, and analysis from the NBA on NBC.